All right, guys, we're back. Another episode of the Habitat Podcast. We have a co-host, Brian Hallbly, on the line as always, and a very special guest today, Mr. Jeff Danker. How you doing today, Jeff?
I am doing well. I'm so appreciative to be on here, and it's hot over here in the Midwest, so it's I'm in the air conditioner right now, getting to talk to you guys.
Well, hey, we truly appreciate you hopping on, and we're big fans of your shows, your multiple shows, and been following along for a while. So pretty cool to have you on here and get to talk deer hunting and habitat with you. So,
Well, the good Lord has blessed me. Who knew that I'd end up doing what I do? I grew up, rodeoing a little bit and then roofing, and thank God I'm not still roofing.
no kidding. Let's hear about how you grew up a little bit, just to kind of paint a picture of who you are, where you're from, what you do for a living. Just to give the listeners a little background, if you don't mind.
Well, Jeff Danker, just grew up right here in this little small town, guys, in Oklahoma, basically just wedged right in between Tulsa and Oklahoma City off of I-44. A great place to live, good people. And my dad's had a roofing company now for about 40 some years. And, heck, I was up on those roofs when I was 5 years old. Dad taught me how to work, and very thankful for that. And more than that, I'm thankful my mom drug me to church, even though, as I always wanted to be in a roping pen, mom made me go to church on Sundays. And, so a couple things were born. Dad got born in me kind of the outdoor stuff that I just loved. Took me coon hunting when I was 4 years old, and that's all we did. And then my mom instilled in me a love for Christ. And so, that is pretty much, if you ask me who I am and who I want to be, that is first and foremost what I want to be. The big bucks God has provided for me to have this platform. I'm not going to tell you I've never got out of whack with it and got it mixed up, but my goal is to always put him first. And, the big bucks will come and go, and just be out there and be able to share my faith wherever I go.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's kind of another reason we wanted to have you on. We're both followers of Christ as well, and love to raise our families around that as much as possible. And honestly, I mean, at the end of a lot of your shows that you have a minute or two sermon, if you will, or a verse that you read from the Bible. And I love that. I mean, I don't know if it's the way you come across, or just that I have a lot of respect for you, but I don't know. I find myself paying deeply attention the whole time. So
yeah, well, I appreciate it. And I've had a lot of people reach out to me and love it. I've had some not so nice words as well, but the truth of the matter is, this is the most important thing I do, whether I'm speaking in a church across the Midwest, at a beast feast, or sharing God's word every week. We will continue to do that until they kick us off. So again, that's my purpose in life. And I always knew God had something for me, and I've tried to follow him somewhat, but I've messed up so many times. And I would tell anybody, man, if you can find your purpose, I mean, we all have one, and I can promise you it ain't just to shoot big deer. That ain't it. And so I'm real fortunate. I feel like God has showed me clear what my purpose is, and we're doing that and trying to be faithful.
Amen.
Yeah, like Jared said, we appreciate that, and the majority of your audience does, I'm sure. Obviously, you're going to get some of the negative stuff thrown at you, people saying, "Hey, why can't you leave that out of it?" But we're not going to change. That's the way it is, and we sure appreciate that, Jeff.
Yeah, well, I mean, just like you guys, I mean, if they don't want to listen to you, they don't have to.
Right.
But they don't want to be on your social media, they don't have to. So again, I started out a big people pleaser. I mean, that's and I had to learn. I was taught by some very wise men to, that you can't please everyone, and people pleasing is it gets in the way of God's work. Sometimes, the gospel's the gospel. Half of it is love, and the other half is there's, God is a just God, and there will be, things coming. There's heaven and hell, and you can't leave one without the other. So that's the one thing that I try to do on our show is, just give them truth. Do it gracefully, or graciously, but truth, you know, there's so much false teachings. And so really trying to follow the Bible and know it, and then be able to share with everyone I come across to point them towards Christ.
Absolutely. Keep at it, brother, for sure. Now, growing up in Pennsylvania, everybody wanted to go out to Illinois, and then later on Iowa got big, and we never really heard about Oklahoma. So tell our listeners about how Oklahoma deer hunting was when you were growing up, and compare it to how it is now.
Okay. Well, probably like a lot of places. I mean, we coon hunted when I was 4, and we had a lot of good coons. But the deer, they were really around here in central Oklahoma, they were non-existent. I mean, it was real in the 70s. I was born in 71, and you know, my dad and them, if they saw a deer track, they got excited. And so, you know, I didn't really go through those times, but I went through the times. I mean, you know, I'll just tell you guys, when I started hunting, if it was brown, we were slinging lead. We were, you know, we have rifle season in Oklahoma, and just what a fun time. And around Thanksgiving to get with your family and go out and hunt. And I just cherish so much of that. But, you know, it was tough. And really in the 90s, I graduated in 1990 from high school, and I was hunting central Oklahoma and shot a few good bucks, but I started going out to northwest Oklahoma, and right there on the Kansas line, and you know, more like where I grew up, it might be somewhat like y'all. I mean, you know, if you got 40 acres, you got something. When you go to northwest Oklahoma, if you got 4,000 acres, you don't even go to the cafe because you're embarrassed. I mean, you know, big land out there.
Right,
so
right.
Deer could grow, and so I got to experience that, and really that's where I really started learning a lot, because, you know, I'd read everything, I'd learned from TV, and I took it all in. But when I got out there and I got to see, so I would see a buck from even 1,000 yards and see how he walked, see how he dealt with things, and then maybe watch a deer at 200 yards cut my track and see what he did, turned upside down, and even a doe smelling where I walked from 40 yards away. And so it really created this detailed hunter in me. And the reason it did is because you couldn't kill these suckers without doing it out there. I mean, they'd see you. You had to be real careful on your entries because they'd lay on these big hills, and so that is where I really cut my teeth to really start putting together what, you know. I remember watching Drury's and thinking, okay, you said play the wind. What's that mean? And, you know, you're too embarrassed, right? You're a guy. You're supposed to know these things. So that is what I set out to do. Is I was embarrassed to not know things. I wanted my shows to help, whether a 5-year-old kid needed to know something or a seasoned hunter. And again, not necessarily from my successes, but even from my failures. And so that's really what I've tried to do, is be transparent to that, to help people and say, listen, I don't have it all figured out, but I've been a few miles and I can help you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something that we don't do a good enough job of in the hunting industry, is showing people our failures. Everybody flips on the TV or the social media and they just see these big giant bucks, and they don't see all the failures that lead up to that. So it's great to see guys like you sharing that, and definitely something to learn from.
Well, it's always the worst thing, guys, is you be at the show, you're at a trade show, you're standing there, and you might be in front of your big buck or whatever, and they never want to talk to you about that. They're like, boy, I saw you that time, you missed that deer, you know, that was awesome. And you're like, what? But that is, you know, it just, we're all human. I mean, I can teach my daughter, I'm like, listen, we're all gonna mess up. They can call us professionals all they want. They have no idea. We're just deer hunters. That's all we ever were.
And good editors.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah.
So what was the big difference about Northwest Oklahoma? Just the space and the deer are able to get that age, or was the habitat a lot different too?
Well, I think it's a little of both. And before I go any further, don't get me wrong, Oklahoma is very diverse. You know, we have the mountains and there's big deer there, and there's a lot of big deer. I mean, I have a 175-inch deer right now on my property, but you know, it ain't fun. They're real hard. I mean, you got to get down to it, details, to shoot one of these acorn type deer. You know, lots of blackjacks, 2-mile sections with nothing but trees, and again, it's very rewarding. But you know, filming a television show, you know, Kansas, Oklahoma, even my Ohio place, different stuff like that is easier. And I have to. I remember going out there, guys, an old timer told me, he said, I said, man, why are these deer just so big? And what I meant by that, in a sense, is, 300-pound bodies. And he said, Jeff, there's just something in the dirt. And in my mind, I'm thinking, these dang farmers, and they would always tell me, they're not down in the bottom, they're up in the hills. And I'm thinking, you guys know what you're talking about. And then before long, you start listening to farmers, there is something in the dirt. I mean, there's so much mineral. You can take a trophy rock out there, you can take a soft block, whatever it is, and they will not touch it out there because there's so much mineral in that stuff that don't look good. I mean, that sagey stuff, whatever. I mean, you guys probably been to Colorado and you take your horse up there and you try to feed them a bale of alfalfa hay and they eat the grass next to it. And that's that strength in it. And that's where northwest Oklahoma is, right there, southwest Kansas. And it's like that farmer said, there's just something in the dirt there. And then again, back to not as much pressure, big deals of land. And it's hard to poach out there because, especially they'll see you. Somebody will see you. You can see for miles, So not to say that doesn't go on some, but I think that's the difference. And, this deer here, if you look back here behind, I mean, the top deer weighed 320 pounds. Northwest Oklahoma had 2 broadheads in him when I killed him finally. I skinned him out, he had 2 broadheads in him.
Wow, yeah, that sounds like a Michigan buck getting sought after by everybody and their brother 18 different times, 320 pounds. Good night.
Yeah, that was on the hoof, but yeah, big sucker.
So out in Oklahoma or Kansas, where you're spending a lot of your time recently, what's your approach to setting up habitat and the farm itself? I want to get into your buck you shot this year and kind of talk about, when you first bought the farm, what it looked like, what were your first things you did, kind of take us through down that path, if you will, setting up what we call kind of, the habitat or the mousetrap.
So to kind of paint this picture for me is, if I were to go buy a piece of Iowa dirt, it's hard for me to beat my neighbor. He's got soybeans, he's got corn, that's going to be preferred, obviously soybeans early, this and that. The next neighbor's got the same thing, in most places. And in different areas, it's the same. Even my Ohio stuff, everybody's got the corn, soybeans, whatever. So you have to be strategic to beat the farmer and to have the biggest deer, whatever. When you go to northwest Oklahoma, guys, it's one of the most special things. First of all, one of the properties I got called the Wallahatchie, they found the Kansas King sheds 1.5 miles from my north fence line. It was in Kansas, but my Wallahatchie mainly is in Oklahoma. And those sheds, if you go look at them right now, that's a world record typical if it would have been killed. It's 216 inches. So again, back to finding an area, and you've already got genetics. But here's the kicker where I love northwest Oklahoma, southwest Kansas. There's not a green field in northwest Oklahoma where my property is within 10 miles per se, to speak of. So you put in an 80-acre pivot, a 30-acre pivot, whatever it is. But here's the kicker where I stand. Soybeans and corn, I do some of it, but I can't get return on my money because if I put in soybeans, I want to leave soybeans. So I got to spend the money to put in soybeans. And then I don't want to take them out. So I just got to eat that money. Same thing with corn. Now I do soybeans, and I'll get into more details how to set that mousetrap with those. But the biggest thing, alfalfa in northwest Oklahoma, southwest Kansas, even anywhere in Kansas and Oklahoma, to me, it's the #1 food, and it gives a return. So I can put in alfalfa, I can make a crop share with my farmer, and I get a third, he does 2/3, and I get even a 35-acre alfalfa field. Well, that alfalfa is good from then on, and I'm getting a return on it. And so my first thing I ever do, especially in those 2 states, is I put in alfalfa. Just recently, I got back, if you follow me at all, some of these deer I've shot on the Wallahatchie, shot my 200 on the Wallahatchie. Then it sold. I didn't have it for a while, and now I partnered back up, and we rebought that thing, 5,300 acres up there on the Kansas line, and it was run down. And the first thing I did is go in and put alfalfa in. I mean, one question I got years ago, they asked me, said, Jeff, how do you grow all those big deer? And the truth of the matter is, I think I muttered up something. I don't even remember my answer, but I don't even know if I knew what I was talking about. But I got to thinking about it. I thought, how do I grow all them big bucks? And then I realized I don't. I steal them. You know, I put in 80 acres of alfalfa. I put in another 50 acres of wheat right there. Grab a big cow feeder and fill it up with corn and then leave it alone. And then all of a sudden they just come. You can't run them deer out of there if you try it because there's no other green. And then all of a sudden those deer get there and then those bigger deer stay. They find security, they find food, and then they winter there and you have them. And I know I'm getting in a real broad deal, but I just kind of wanted to paint the deal kind of how I start things.
That was an excellent answer. You know, you first of all, you hit a couple things there. Being the outlier in the neighborhood, right? You're being the shining star versus your neighbors. We talk about that all the time. Finding the low hole in the bucket with the food, and alfalfa. That return on your investment. That's a great point. I like how you frame that because corn and beans, that's expensive to put in. Then you got fertilizer,
right.
And like you said, we're doing this all for deer, right? So how much money are you going to spend? Brian, you've had great success with alfalfa too, haven't you?
Yeah, both in Ohio and Pennsylvania. Yeah, it's a deer magnet all the way up until the frost kind of puts a stop to it. But we've had deer feeding on it up into the rut. So
it
works great.
Well, a lot of times, Brian, I do too, is come in and drill no-till wheat right in it, you know, in that latter part, you know, like say in the next 10 days, I might do that with some of mine. You know, down here, I probably don't get as cold as quick as you do. I mean, my alfalfa will stay a lot of times it might even get through the first freeze and wait till a harder freeze. And so it might still be deer coming to it pretty good till December 1st. And then, like I said, my deal to set those traps is to get, you know, it's just like I leased forever, guys. I leased these big pieces of property and I would help, you know, quail hunters would help me pay for it and this or that. But again, you have no control. You got cows, you got all this stuff. And so when I started buying property, then my wife's like, well, what, we're buying them and then we're still spending all this money. And I'm like, well, you know, let me see if I can figure this out. So like I said, that's where the alfalfa coming in. And again, like the property where I just shot that 4 drop down deer, you know, I put in that one there. It's got 25 acres of alfalfa. And I always put my alfalfa in. You can put it in the spring, but I usually put mine in the fall. And, you know, a lot of times I will, the first plant, I will plant wheat with it, kind of as a protection. And that way, even if I buy a piece of property, instead of having to wait a full year to get a benefit, I go ahead and put wheat with it. So I do get the benefit of deer coming to the wheat that year. And then the next year, obviously I got the alfalfa but that's what I did with that. I got 25 acres of alfalfa. I was real, you know, planting head feed and switchgrass and even using bales of hay and sticking bales of hay. I mean, I'm talking about buying bales of hay, going around and finding a bale of hay, seeing a whole deal where a farmer ain't using, say, how much you want for that? They're like, dude, that hay ain't no good. I'm like, dude, I'll give you $10 a bale for it. And then load that hay up and take and block a deal where they can't see into your alfalfa from a road or something, using switchgrass for that and stuff like that. And then I plant milo with head feed, and then soybeans and corn as well, you know, not big things, but just my idea is food. You know, we can talk about security, you can talk about all that other stuff, but food. And that's kind of my secret in a sense. That isn't a secret, but you know, because I have these field producers with me and they're like, well, what else? You know, and you know, we do water, we do different things there in Kansas, but the main thing is food and then picking spots to hunt them and not bust them out there.
Yeah. And that's interesting. They're slaves to their stomach. We know that. And as long as you're not over pressuring the food, I can see being the number one priority. I just picked up a new 70-acre parcel in northern Michigan, and there's not, you know, farmland anywhere near it. So my thought is like what you're saying, food right off the bat, right? Pull them from everywhere else and get that good food plot or whatever in there. Now, if you're near, say you're near corn and beans, like all your neighbors, or your spot up in Ohio, are you still planting alfalfa, or what are you planting there to differentiate yourself a little bit?
Well, in Ohio, if I take that farm, I have corn and soybeans everywhere. And so what I try to do there is buy some of the soybeans from my farmer, buy some of the corn from my farmers, and spend that money there. Some of the corn, if I keep say 10 acres of corn, I might keep it. They cut theirs. I keep that 10 acres, but then I might go in and brush hog 5 acres of it and then leave that other 5 acres standing. So, that's something that those deer ain't gonna have on other farms. I may, obviously leave the soybeans and then I go plant food plots. I mean, just the typical biologic type food plots with the turnips, the rape, the, rye, triticale, whatever. And, and then really on that is, the thing of it is, you guys know this, when you bait, I'm going to bait till the day I die. But, I have a lot of people say, man, you bait, how easy is that? I'm going to tell you right now, you bait, you better be on your toes because bucks are already coming in. They're timid. They just left the other 40 acres and they got busted over there. And that's what, when you try to start shooting a big deer over corn, that deer is so educated. If he's 5 years old, he's seen so many dang corn piles, there ain't funny. And most of the time you got somebody there hunting with a bad wind. And so they're educated. So the corn piles is just another deal. I mean, we use them, but a lot of times the way I set mine up is put the stand up, get a good entry, get my corn pile, say 60 yards away, my main deal down there. And then what I'll do is I'll get that big buck coming, and my guys look at me going, dang, he's 60 yards. What are you going to do? Can you see him from the dang tree stand through the timber? Okay, we got him now. And then I'll start sprinkling corn back to my tree. And maybe even just put a little pile here and there at 30 yards. So the majority of the deer are going to be on the big pile. But if something about it, that big buck will come check that little corn deal. And I think that's a corn pile so many times. And you guys, I don't know how your Ohio is. You got to be in a 3-trunk tree there. Them suckers will look up. You gotta cross your T's and dot your I's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, it's like you said with the smaller corn pile, bucks, they use different trails than the does. They do things differently. They're a different animal. Great insight on the bait strategy there. I've never heard that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
So you said you're a property owner now, which is awesome. We're both property owners as well. Or Brian was. He's in between right now, we'll call it. And curious to when did you first start buying your own ground? How long have you been buying ground for? And what does that look like in terms of, you don't have to get too detailed, but I mean, is it 40 acres? Is it 400 acres? What are you dealing with these days?
Well, the truth of the matter is, guys, is I've had all these leases. I've been successful on a lot of them. And probably about 2006, I had the opportunity I didn't even own the properties at Wallahatchie, and I got to go in with a guy, an investor, and he owned it. I just got to fix it up and do all that. So I didn't really own it, but it felt kind of like mine. But all along, I had never got to shoot a buck of my own property. I mean, I have 40 acres in my house, and then I got a 320-acre lease, and my daughters have shot deer on our property. But going into this year, I'd never got it. So 3 years ago, 2019, I purchased my first piece of property. That was the Woolly Grass in Kansas. That's what the name I give. It's got a ton of CRP. They had shot a 238-inch deer off of the year before I bought it, but it didn't have no food on it. And we went to work on it. I mean, I was so proud. It's 374 acres. What made me buy this piece of property is there was this big name farmer, and he owned on every side of it. And he didn't let anybody hunt. And so I got with the farmer that farmed all that big country there, and he said, yeah, no one hunts. And so I bought that 374 acres and water tanks, food, I put a 16,000-pound bulk feeder on it, where they could come anytime. I made boundaries where you couldn't even shoot a deer in the sanctuary, that's 374 acres, and there's probably about 120 acres that I will not step foot on unless it's shed season. One time I walked through it, and I put in trails through the big grass. I put in that alfalfa, and 2019 didn't shoot a deer. 2020 didn't shoot a deer, And last year, that what we were calling the flyer buck, we saw him the first year, and then the second year, he was probably, guys, 135-inch deer last year. Had a flyer still off his back, and I was like toe to toe. I said, I have no idea what that deer. He may not ever be nothing. And so going into this year with the alfalfa, we planted the alfalfa in 2020, and so we had the wheat the last year with it, and brought in a lot more deer. But this year was the year. The alfalfa, everything full circle, 150 deer on the alfalfa before dark. I mean, watching from the road, just crazy. And there was the flyer buck with 4 drops. And I knew he was 5. He was the deer that we were gonna, he was the deer that I told Cole, that's the deer, the first deer I'll ever shoot on my property. And, Lord willing, with the September 21st cold front, it was perfect where he was going to come out. In my mind, it doesn't happen that way a lot, but in my mind, I knew exactly where he was bedded. I knew he had a good chance he would hit the soybeans, which was the muddy blind I'd set up just for him. Hit the soybeans just for a second, and I had water. He'd hit the water, and then he'd walk out into the alfalfa. And that's exactly how it worked that night. Short of he didn't make it to the water of the alfalfa.
So how did you know where he was bedded at?
Well, just a lot of it, just history. And I get the question a lot. It's like, how do you know where deer are bedded? And a lot of them times I just tell guys, you just gotta give an educated guess. Now in this case, this buck I spent 2 years with him. So I kind of knew where his core was. I never found his sheds, guys, by the way. Not one shed of those 2 years. So that is not the case, but I just knew that where he always came from. And then the way I designed the farm with hinge cutting and different things, I knew probably the most mature bucks where they would be. And then just the history of how the bucks walked on that farm. And sure enough, I guessed right within probably 50, 60 yards of where he had, when I first saw him the other day, he just got up. I can promise you, there was I think 8 other bucks with him, and they had all been laying right there.
So what's your approach for hinge cutting in that type of terrain? Do you have much terrain change there?
Well, this piece of property is really flat, but right in the center, like I said, it's all grass. And when I say that, I have 10-foot grass down to 4-foot grass, the whole property, even in the timber. So in the middle of the property is that 140 acres of timber, brush, crap stuff that just leave it alone. So I'm careful with it. But no, I go in and I hinge cut. I'm probably not a professional by any means, but just using my head to create them thick. I got a bunch of cutovers or a bunch of just deadfalls over the years this property's had, and just ain't cleaning none of that up, just making it woolier and woolier. Well, the biggest thing I fight in that country, guys, is fire. Just praying that I don't get a fire on my property and get in there and get that. It won't hurt the grass, but my deadfalls, they would light up like a whatever. So but anyway, just they're gonna bed there every year. They're gonna bed every year in this same spot.
Yeah, well, congrats on that buck. Beautiful buck. And then like to get you to walk through the Mousetrap and how you set that up for us too.
Well, what I did on this piece of property is, so I don't know about y'all, but I have so many people that talk about they don't get an east wind and how don't hunt an east wind. I've shot a ton of big deer with an east wind, especially early in Kansas and Oklahoma. You're going to have easterly winds. So I set it up just for that, knowing whatever big buck or the woolly grass produced, I could have a chance at him on this soybean. So I made a soybeans. I was probably, guys, I started this soybean field probably 145 to 160 yards from the timber. So you got the timber up there, the 135 acres, and then it was grass. And then I started an hourglass soybean. So I just come wide, come down to an hourglass, and then widen back out. And then I touched Milo to it. And the reason I do that is so if I come into this stand, I want deer not to be able to see in front of me. So if I need to call a deer into me, I don't want them to be able to see. And then from there was alfalfa. Now, one of the big keys to this deal was I was probably a half a mile in every direction from a road. And I took a tractor in August and I mowed a path like I had the last 2 years. Is I just mowed a path, a curvy path all the way to the road. So the grass is 6 foot tall. The other key thing I did on the soybeans, the hourglass, where I was going to be entering an exodus, I put in Egyptian wheat. So 9 to 10 foot deal. So I could literally, when I got to the blind, I was down here, a deer could actually be on the food plot right in front of me, never knew I was there until I climbed up past that deal to get in. So and then my exit too. So my alfalfa field was out there. If I have 150 deer on it dark, I could actually crawl out, go straight west, and they never know it. So I think that's all key to it. I mean, I always tell people the trees is only as good as your entry and your exit, not just your entry. So that is kind of the mousetrap I said is just, and again, when I tell people, they're like, man, how do I get that exact scenario? Well, it don't have to be exact. Just get something in your mind. A lot of times it's just practical and design it. And I'm sure you guys are like me anymore. I mean, I love killing them, but I like designing the trap. That's the fun part.
For sure. Yeah, so that section of grass that you leave between the timber and the plot, are you mowing something to get the deer to go down a certain way that you want them, or you just taking advantage of their natural movements?
On this one, I've done that. On some of the property, I have that. On this one, I didn't. I had about 3 trails that were real natural. They followed a fence line. And, one reason I didn't this year is because I just run out of time. I bought the other farm, the Caddyshack farm too, and we were just moving tractors. The farms were only 7 miles apart. We just moving tractors, getting this, done that. And, you get to a point where I told the guys, I said, it's it, we're done. You can't go in anymore. You can be the farmer and come on the alfalfa. We'll check those inventory cameras. But other than that, this is the deers now. I mean, that's what, I never go in to fill a water tank unless it's noon. Same thing with the inventory cameras, just making them feel comfortable. I mean, that is I think the biggest key is, this deer didn't have a clue. I don't know if y'all watched the YouTube deal on that deer, but he, everything was, it's one of them deals, you think you're in control. The deer's coming up. He followed that other deer, that big brother deer come out of nowhere, which was a giant, walked right in front of me. And then the flower buck walks up there and I'm thinking, I ain't even nervous. I'm like, dude, this sucker's dead. And, I do my whole deal, and he just squirts on me. So what was so controlled, now I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm having to switch from the vertical to the, and get over that horizontal window and just fortunate to be able to make the shot. But gosh, you know how it is with a big buck. Something's always got to kind of go wrong.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, Jeff. Yeah, that we've seen the video. I'll put the video in the show notes to this podcast, guys. Be sure to check it out. The footage is just insane. I mean, that deer is so pretty.
Yeah.
And the way he's coming in, you got him all on camera, or the video camera, just looking spectacular. And
yeah,
congrats again on that. I know I told you the other day, but
yeah,
that's just a heck of a deer.
Hang on, what?
Sorry, Kristen Sullivan's sister is here and she didn't know if you had time to.
I'm just telling her I'm in a podcast. There's no way right now.
Okay.
Yeah, no, like Cole Cannon, man, that guy.
Yeah, that was great.
He freaking runs the camera. I mean, that's one thing is being a hunter with a television show is having someone sure enough good over your shoulder that you don't have to worry and you can focus on shooting the deer, because I have a hard enough time doing that anymore anyway. So yeah, just hats off. I always tell him he makes me look good. Happy birthday, Cole. I know it's your birthday and he's still out at the ranch, so I'm fixing to head there here in a little bit. But yeah, just that deal there, looking at that deer and just like I tell someone the other day on that deer, I mean, it's like how you fall in love with those bucks. I mean, it does get, people don't want to hear you say it in a sense, but it is bittersweet because I mean, that farm was kind of defined by that deer this year. And there'll be another one. God will give us another one, but just an unbelievable night, unbelievable time, unbelievable video.
For sure. And I think what's awesome about this whole thing is you set up that whole mousetrap, we keep calling it, just the same way you would do it, you know, in other areas of the country where all of our listeners are. It might not be the same exact habitat type or same exact, you know, A, B, or C, but what you did and how you displayed that here in the podcast is exactly how, you know, low pressure, screening your access, not hunting the destination food, the alfalfa, where you can't get out without getting busted every time.
Right.
I mean, everything you did was exactly what can be done in other areas of the country too.
Oh yeah, well, and I mean, one thing I want to say is, you know, I get accused of a lot of, you know, well, money can do whatever, and let me tell you, money will help, no doubt. But the truth of the matter is, it's just like this. That 25 acres of alfalfa, I mean, I didn't have to come out of pocket on nothing. I got a farmer, and I'm actually making money off that. He's doing the work, and then, you know, I put some money into the corn, you know, into that big feeder. And then some just hard elbow grease, mainly. I mean, obviously I bought the farm, but my philosophy on that, if you can buy the farm, I mean, I don't know. My wife would be at some point want me to sell it, and maybe I will. And I truly believe, guys, I'll get my money back and then some when it's time to do that. So, you know, again, to anybody listening, you can do this without a lot of money. I mean, just hard work, I guarantee you will go a long ways, and using your head and you know, like I said, the alfalfa deal, you can actually get a return.
That's a solid point there. And I had a follow up on your hunt there. You mowed the grass from the road, like all curvy and left and right. Is that was for your access on the way in, correct?
Yeah, as access on the way in and out, you know. So, and the
Right.
reason I do it curvy is, you know, my guys always ask me that. I'm like, well, I don't ever want somebody to be driving down the road and catch a glimpse of that straight mowed path where they can see. So I want it to be curvy, and that way they can't see. If they do see the trail, they can't see it very far. And so, you know, yeah, that's for access in and out.
Awesome.
And you know, there is a time that I go into that through the alfalfa. So to enter the alfalfa, you come in from the south. And so sometimes I'll use two trucks. I'll put a truck over by the alfalfa, way out by the road, and then I'll walk in from there. And then when I leave, because it's just, I don't have to go through any grass, and if there is something laying back there. And then I get in the stand, and then when I come out, obviously everything's already come through. And then they are all at the alfalfa, and I walk out back to the west and have somebody pick me up, or we have another vehicle there. So again, just not rocket science, just staying out of the way, you know. I don't like the one deer to be spooked. I mean, you know, not that I don't ever spook one, but that's my goal. It's just it's their property, and I'm the intruder, and I have to be sneaky, you know.
Amen. I mean, we talk about low pressure and striking at the right time a lot, and this is a perfect example. What you mentioned something in your video that was interesting. What weather situation did you get on your phone that made you go, crap, I got to get there now? I mean, you're talking late September. That's usually pretty warm, pretty early. Tell us kind of what went through your head, because you were hunting elk or something, weren't you?
Yeah. So Jaylee, my daughter, we were out in New Mexico, and I'd kind of been watching this front even before we went, but you know, you never know, you know, when you're too far out if the weather's right. But you know, one thing that I tell people is you can hunt the cold front all you want with 30.60. If you've already messed it up, it doesn't matter. Because I have people come to me all the time. They're like, well, dang, I'm hunting the same cold front you did, and my big buck didn't show up. Well, you hunted with a bad wind, or you didn't mean to hunt it with a bad wind, but you went in on hot weather, and then the wind wasn't blowing hard enough, and then you're educating every deer in the dang deal, you know, right off the bat. So to me, that's the key. First of all, pick your spots and keep them fresh, and that's what we've done. We've not done anything wrong with this. And then we saw that, you know, I like anywhere from a 13 to 20 degree drop. This was going to be somewhere like 18-degree drop in temperature. And mixed with, you know, looking over a deer cast, is the barometer was going to be, I think it was 30.4 and rising. And that was just off the charts for September. And I mean, to me, it doesn't matter what month, and it doesn't matter what moon. You guys may argue with me. I know I've been in arguments with this, and you know, maybe they're right. For me, they're not, because I believe weather will trump moon all day long. Not to say the moon doesn't have an effect, but weather will trump the moon. You know, you're getting the steady, oh, hot. You get a 20-degree drop in temperature mixed with the barometer going up, and that's exactly what we played. And we literally went in. I mean, it's like that deer right there, the bottom deer. I shot that deer with 30.55, and I can pretty much look around this room and go into so many deer that I shot on those deals. You know, not low pressure like you're saying, and then wait on that cold front. Nobody's there. I mean, people will be like, well, this buck comes in every night at 2 a.m. Well, why? And it's 70 degrees every day, 70, 70, 70. It ain't deer season yet. And then all of a sudden, deer season opens, and they had that deer the night before at 2 a.m., the night before that at 2 a.m. It's the same exact weather. And what do my buddies do? They go in thinking they're going to kill him. I'm like, there ain't nothing changed. All you're going to do is go in and see a doe family in the last 25 minutes. They're going to sit there and eat a little bit, and then you're going to get a bad pull, and they're going to smell you. And then he's laying back there, and then he hears it. You end up leaving. He comes and investigates, and now you're on your heels the rest of the season. And so that's what the cold fronts are only good if you ain't that guy. I mean, just be careful. And again, I don't want to be out there pushing people not to hunt, but get some observation stands, get some different things, and hunt wins, and leave those really good stands until you don't go hunt them, go in there to kill it. And that's what we did that night. We didn't go hunt, we went in to kill that sucker.
Well said. I mean, like you're saying, you're not telling people, don't go hunting, but have a plan B, have a plan C.
Mm-hmm.
Don't strike till the time is right. Yeah, I totally get that. I think, especially you're hunting deer like in Michigan or Pennsylvania, where we're from too. These deer are nuts, man. Like they'll come in and smell you, 48 hours later, know you were there.
Yeah.
And then they're nocturnal after that. I mean, you get one shot. I like how you said that there. And I've had a follow up. When you're looking at cold front, how much of a cold front is a cold front to you? And then do you sound like you watch a barometer quite a bit?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely checking in. And I mean, one thing that I want to add too, I mean, I got a deer right here right of me. It's called Huckleberry. I shot back in my Major League Bowhunter days. This deer, I knew the cold front was coming, guys. It was in September in Kansas as well. I was hunting a 240-acre lease that I had. And I hunted him the day before it got here. So I knew it was coming because, I mean, you guys know, and I mean, I know, Brian, if you've hunted Kansas, you're dealing with low winds. And, you might have an 8-9 mile an hour wind sound pretty good. And in the last 30 minutes, you know what that does. It turns the other direction and you're screwed. So one reason I went after Huckleberry, I'd hunted him for 16 straight days. And when I say that, I'd just been up there for 16 days. Well, I was looking for the truck. I was just being careful with him, whatever. And it's October 3rd. And we had a 21 mile an hour wind. So it was blowing the front end. So we were looking at it and we're going, okay, the front's going to be here. The temperature's going to drop tomorrow. It was literally 91 degrees when I walked to my stand that day, but the front's coming. It's blowing in, 21 mile an hour, and it's starting to drop. It's going to drop that night. It's going to be, a 25-degree drop for the next day. But we shot Huckleberry that night. And one of the big deals with it, we had that wind. We had that straightforward 20 mile an hour wind. He knew the front was coming. And shoot, I think I seen 12 bucks before him that night, walked right in front of me going to soybeans. And again, so the front, I didn't just after it gets here, see it coming, be watching that. And, I use the 15-degree to 20-degree drop is what I like. It's just not the same. You just get the same. It's hard for a change. You just ain't going to get, if the bucks ain't moving, they ain't moving. They need a change. And that's what we're looking for.
And how do you think the pressure coincides with that higher pressure? How does that trigger them? I know Drury's, everybody talks about pressure. Some guys swear by it. Some guys don't pay attention to it too much. What are you looking for? A steady rise, an all-time high? out of average high? What are you looking for with that?
Well, my deal, and I'm probably way in over my head, guys, on the scientific deal. You'd have to give juries, whatever. But from a practical side of when I started learning about the barometer, is I'm not big. I mean, people talk about it rising, that stuff, whatever, and that's good. But it's just like we're going to have a 30.03, 30 point, whatever. That doesn't excite me at all. When I get to 30.3, I actually shot a deer on 30.71, which is the highest I've ever seen. And I can promise you, when you get past 30.5 with drop in temperature, there's no, I don't care what anybody says, you need to be in your dang deer stand because they can't help themselves. But even 30.3 and rising, I'm begging my wife, whatever it is, to get out of whatever. I mean, those are the deals. And I'll just tell you truthfully, someone like myself, I mean, I got a family. I try to spend as much time with them as I can. I don't bang my head hunting bad stuff, bad timing. I chase these. I mean, I've probably been on my phone 10 times a day. I don't know why, because they don't usually change in a matter of minutes or hours, but, checking Ohio, checking Missouri, checking everywhere I got a place and going, man, when are we going to get it? It's just steady, steady, steady. I mean, it's going to be 98 degrees. The one thing that we were waiting on, 98 degrees on Saturday, we're taking a handicap hunter Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Well, 98 on Saturday, and it's going to drop down to 71 on Sunday. So we're going to go to church that morning. One other thing to add, what we do, we don't hunt mornings right now, especially if you're after a certain deer, because it's pitch black. You have no idea where he's at. You're going in to step on him. So we're staying away from that. Just playing the fronts and the eagles.
No, that's great. That's great. I think, like you said, juries and all those guys, they go into a lot more of the science stuff on it. I'm not into the sciencey stuff on it either. So what you said makes sense to me. Just watch for that change, the significant change, and even out of average change, right? If it's always 70 and then it's 60, it might not be a huge swing, but it's below average.
Yeah.
Something to focus on, right?
Well, and it's just like wind speed and all that. I mean, I use DeerCast for the future. I mean, I can look into the future with the pressure. And then I use a couple other apps, whether it's Weather Channel, whatever, AccuWeather, and I'm comparing winds. I always look at my camera guy and I say, no mistakes. And a lot of that is, people ask me about my decisions, how you shoot those big bucks. It ain't just on what stand you're going to hunt. And I can tell people, there's many observation stands I've shot Boone and Crockett deer. I didn't necessarily want to be there. If I got a farm, I might be, and I had 10 stands on there, and this might be number 8 in my line of favorites. But it was the exact right wind. You go in and you actually shoot a booner because the wind puts you where you needed to be. And that's to those guys too. I mean, maybe they got 30 acres, set it up, get you an east, west, north, south stands and let the wind tell you where to hunt. That's what'll kill it.
So Jeff, you've had a lot of success in the hunting industry and with your properties, and we've enjoyed following along. What's next for you? Where are you going from this season moving forward, and maybe in the future, what do you got on store for your followers?
Well, I tell you guys, just to be transparent with you is, I'm just trying to be myself. TV, I've been in it about 20 years now, and there was a time where, I tried to please everyone, like I told you, and tried to be, and now I believe that that's what every hunter's got to find out who he is, even as a hunter. I got to tell my daughter is, if you're somebody that just wants to shoot deer, go shoot deer and smile doing it. Don't you apologize for it. You want to shoot a 1.5-year-old deer? I don't care. But find out who you are. Don't try to be Waddell. Don't try to be Drury. Don't try to just learn who you are. And I know who I am. I know that I like going and finding a deer. And I like building properties and all that. And there's a lot of people that love it. You have no idea on some people that just bash me and can't believe that I'd pass this deer or whatever. And but I'm big enough now, I don't really care. I just go after. So that's going to be more of what I do is I'm going to continue to do that. And, I have some goals set of that. But then the other is I'm at a point where my dad is 70. I'm gonna hunt with him more. I'm gonna continue to be with my daughter and be out there and teach that. And even the field producers and everyone that I kind of get to mentor with the Bible and all that, I want to teach them and give them opportunity. I was given opportunity. I'm gonna be 50 years old this year. I definitely want to kill some more big bucks, and I'm going to. And I want to go shoot a moose and some different things, and I'll start doing a little bit of that. But for really the big thing is I'm just a whitetail guy. I love finding those big whitetails. I've already now people are trying to buy my properties and I don't want to sell them. So now my wife's like, I thought that's what we were going to do is you're just going to build some up and then sell them. I'm like, well, we'll see. So, it is, you get one that are hard to turn loose stuff, but more of the same really, guys. And then more, I'll probably start speaking a little more at some churches and just sharing the gospel. We're living in times that, sure enough, we need Jesus Christ talked about and truth brought and love, and people are hurting more and more, and even people with false security of money or whatever in the past now even it's a perfect time to share the gospel because these times are uncertain, and so we're sure enough going to do way more of that.
That's awesome, Jeff. We really look forward to continuing to follow along and obviously good luck in all your ventures. We have one more thing quick we like to ask our guests before we wrap up. We want to know what your favorite tree is. Now, it seems like a simple question, but we get some pretty cool answers on this. It could be your favorite tree you shot a bunch of deer out of. It could be your favorite habitat tree you like to plant on your farms. Go ahead and throw something together for us if you got one.
Okay, well, I got a couple things. So my favorite tree is a hackberry. And like just hanging a stand. I mean, I'm the guy, like I can be at a picnic with my wife and she's like, why do you keep looking up them trees? I'm like, man, if I could just take that tree with me, especially being a Kansas, Oklahoma guy, Brian knows what I'm talking about. I mean,
oh yeah,
the trees all the time. So a big hackberry, man, just hangs really nice. So I love that. But probably, I tell you what I'm gonna do, guys. I'm gonna send you a picture of my favorite tree here in the next few days. So the Wallahatchie, I got to build that ranch years ago, and there was a tree I called the bedroom set, and I shot 4 booners out of it.
Wow.
Actually, yeah, none of those deer, but anyway, there's one right here. Anyway, I shot 4 booners out of this one tree. It's a perfect deal. You could pull down to an oil well, any westerly wind. You could sneak into it, get in it. You could actually see the big alfalfa field that I put in probably about a half a mile away. And then it was all river in front of me. And literally I almost shot the 202-inch out of it. I ended up shooting him in a different place, but I had an encounter with him. But again, 4 booners, the perfect setup, right on a fence line. And I used a decoy a lot of times. I'd put the decoy over the fence and I'd only touch his back legs and just stake his back legs, and I'd be on this side of the fence with my tree, and gosh, it was just so awesome. But recently we had a fire after I sold the place, or my investor sold it. Had a fire in that tree. I went down there the other day. My stand's still in it. It's leaned over, and I'm going to take you. And we're actually kind of going to be doing a remake of the Wallahatchie, so the viewers will get to see this in the future, kind of this project we're on right now.
Oh, cool.
I'll shoot it to y'all and show you my favorite tree that's laying sideways right now.
Wow. Exactly what we were hoping for. A great answer again on the favorite tree question, and I don't know why it never seems to disappoint. But yeah, Jeff, please send that over. Maybe that'll be our thumbnail for the podcast episode when it launches.
Yeah.
And but hey, we want to be real respectful of your time. Thank you very much. If you want, go ahead and plug, where we can find you and watch you and follow along.
Yeah, well, obviously, guys, I got to give it up to Outdoor Channel and Sportsman Channel. They have been partners of mine for a long time, and you can find us over there. BuckVentures on Wednesday nights is our main airing. But then again, we're on My Outdoor TV with the Woodsman and all the pro staff guys. So that'll actually be dropping just here in a few days on my outdoor TV, and it's kind of a binge watch. They drop one every Wednesday, I believe, three episodes. And then lastly, I tell you to go to the YouTube. I mean, we're making it bigger and better. We're trying to keep it almost up to life. So it's just like we just dropped, obviously, the flyer buck, and then we'll put together a whole story of that for the national TV and the education behind it. We'll actually put together an episode a lot of what we talked about today, the Mousetrap. Maybe I'll call it that, and give you guys a plug there too. And that's what I would want to say with you guys is I want to know where I can support you guys too. So I need y'all to make sure and text me that. I want to get all my guys following you guys, and you know, you guys are Christians. I want to push you guys as far as I can push you guys too. And you know, so y'all help me, get me that contact stuff so we can get everybody behind you as well. And I'm very appreciative of you guys.
Wow, Jeff, thank you very much. That means a ton.
Appreciate that. Absolutely.
Yeah, we truly appreciate you, and always been a fan, following along. So keep up the good work, my friend, and we'll keep in touch.
Okay, guys, I appreciate it. Thanks, Jared. Thanks, Brian. God bless you. And yeah, shoot me that contact stuff.
Thanks, Jeff.
See y'all.